What do I think about the project? Well, I was a little apprehensive when one of your board members, my best friend, Annetta Gaines, invited me to be a part of it. And my first thought was, I can't imagine, what are they really going to do?
So my mom was from Crystal Springs, Mississippi. My dad was from Birmingham, Alabama. And eventually, a lot of their family, through the Great Migration, moved up north from Cleveland, Ohio. I would have to come back to Alabama in the summer. I hated it. I hated the South. So I'm 63 years old. To give context to what I'm going to say, I remember white-only signs. I remember some of the horrific things that my aunts and cousins would talk about. So I really disliked coming back south. Coming full circle, especially after finding my fourth great-grandparents, with the help of you, Eric, and Christy Farrell, the excellent researcher, there's this sense of home, which is kind of hard to explain, even knowing that my grandparents all the way back, this is where they started, was in the South, in slavery.
So many years ago, I had an idea, which was to visually represent as best we could some of the enslaved who lived, worked, breathed, died at Carnton, at Carter House, and when I first had this idea, we weren't managing Rippa Villa. The Black experience and the Black story was virtually absent, not just from these places.
I think some people who come here have a very romantic picture of what life on this farm looked like. And I don't know that it's a very accurate picture, because the existence of families like the McGavics came at a cost, and it came at a cost that was paid by human beings. Some people who come here don't want to have to deal with that because it's uncomfortable.
When you throw in the element of slavery, it doesn't make the place as inviting. For people who look like me, that's oftentimes we don't want to come to places like this because our story wasn't being told. But if we want all people to come and visit a place like this, then the whole story needs to be told.
So my son was, I believe, second grade when I first came to Carnton. I didn't know what to expect, but it's a field trip, I'm going. When I left, and I told him when he got home, I'll never go back. Because at the time, the way that the tours were operating, they weren't telling the full story. And I never came back here until 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. It was because of how we are now telling an accurate and full story of the lives of the enslaved that were here, along with the McGavics, but telling it in a full way where accurate history can be shared for forever.
When I came the first time, me having experienced this site as a parent chaperone on a field trip, it was a pretty lonely, rough experience for me. This was my first time ever stepping on a plantation. What I saw then and what I see today, and the reflections of being able to come in this space, you know, it's a place that I can bring my family to learn and actually envision the people who served here, the enslaved who tilled the land here. Coming to a place that I know is gonna be able to tell a story that I can connect with, that my family can connect with, it just means a whole lot more. So I'm so grateful for the work that's being done with this project to give the enslaved the honor and the respect that they deserve, and to just make sure that their stories are not lost in this.
Here we are, it's the 21st century. We've moved beyond the sesquicentennial. We are in the aftermath of a Black president. We are in the aftermath of murders in Charleston in 2015. We're in the aftermath of Charlottesville, Virginia. We're in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. And just saying those things will make some people cringe and say, well, this is woke. They're politically correct. No, it's just correct. And if you want to say woke, then okay, that's the truth. We're wide awake. And I think it's time to just be honest.
What does the Confederacy mean to me? My views have changed some, but probably in the immediate past, especially moving back to Tennessee. When we first moved here, we actually considered living in Franklin. And as we were talking, I finally said to my husband, I'm just not sure I can live in a city that so celebrates the Confederacy, especially being an Army officer. I raised my right hand and I took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States and all enemies, whether foreign or domestic, against the same. And we have celebrated the losers, and that always hurt my feelings as a military officer. When you celebrate that Confederacy, you were celebrating that it was okay to keep people who look like me as less than human.
If this story isn't told, it could continue to go lost, especially in a place like this. To be a part of this is just a tremendous blessing. To give voice to those who didn't have a voice is so important for me.
I'm really proud to be able to share the project of what we are doing here, because it's not many places like this in the country that are gonna tell a story that my family can connect with in a way that is compassionate, a way that is understanding, a way that's respectful and not avoiding the hard truth. And I'm very hopeful that it will draw in more families that look like me, but also to educate the broader community on what this project means and the impact of the enslaved in this world. The Black experience is often not discussed because I think it can be painful for some people to hear that or to see that and receive that. We are not blaming people for what happened in the past, but we are just trying to be learning about it. And I think once you take that veil down and you're able to be vulnerable, you're able to have some reconciliation and some healing through that. It is hard for people to come together and talk about race. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's the only conversation that we can have that is gonna require us to get the healing that we deserve and to give African Americans and Black people the humanity and the respect of that experience, not in a way to blame anybody, but in a way to talk about it so that we all can heal and be better and grow from it.
Every time I walk on the grounds, any historical place like this, I always try to feel what they would have felt, and I know that I can't. So for me, it becomes very emotional a lot of times, just to know that a human being was held in slavery, couldn't go do anything they wanted, yet as we've talked about, they still thrived. They still survived. Their resilience is why I'm here. Even though Carnton represents what has gone on across, many southern states during that time, we were still able to push past it. In doing so, we're able to tell a full story in an accurate way so no one else misrepresents what actually happened here.
I think it's time, and I know younger generations are ready. We are proud of this. We are excited about this. And it's not just a representation through silhouettes, it's also a representation through bronze busts. You'll be able to see people like Mariah Reddick and Anna Bunch in a three-dimensional way. I think it helps ground a place like Carnton and Carter House and Rippa Villa and Tennessee and the nation. It's time to just accept it, acknowledge it, and maybe that will bring some harmony and peace and some healing.
Just to know that it's being done is absolutely amazing to me. And then sitting on the board and listening to the board members give 100% behind it, that just warmed my heart. It's like, this is the kind of organization that I love being part of. This is what's gonna continue to help our community and our state and our country grow towards being that country that really is gonna live by its original creed.
That day will be an emotional day to actually see the silhouettes out on the property, to give a vision of what it could have been like, and to see the reactions of younger children to ask questions. What is this about? What does it mean? We're always looking back, but we need to teach the next generations how important the fuller story is.
My hope is that 50 years from now, this isn't a controversial or debatable topic. People see enslaved people and the Black experience and Black history at a place like this, and it's not some profound gesture or achievement or fundraising project. It's just the truth. That's my hope. And I do believe that's exactly what will happen, but we can't get there unless we do this.